The Monroes were the epitome of success and sophistication. Their sprawling estate at Crestwood Heights overlooked a shimmering lake, a testament to the wealth they had accumulated over generations. Edward Monroe, the patriarch, was a powerful corporate attorney whose influence stretched far beyond the city limits. His wife, Eleanor, was known for her elegance, hosting lavish fundraisers and mingling with society's elite. Together they maintained an image that was the envy of all. But beneath the surface of their picture-perfect life lurked a darkness, a tangle of lies and forbidden passions that threatened to destroy everything. Eleanor Monroe had learned to live with secrets. Her marriage to Edward had been a union of convenience and power, a partnership that demanded sacrifices. Each morning, she would glide down the grand staircase, dressed impeccably in designer clothes, and greet her husband with a practiced smile. She knew that maintaining appearances was crucial, even as the love they once shared had dissolved into a cold, distant coexistence. Edward was consumed by his work, often traveling for long periods or working late into the night, leaving Eleanor to her own devices. But behind the closed doors of Crestwood Heights, the children had begun to sense the cracks in their family's flawless veneer. Olivia, their eldest daughter, was 21 and had recently returned home from university for the summer. A psychology major, Olivia had a keen ability to read people, and she often found herself analyzing her parents' behavior. She noticed the tension in her father's jaw, the way her mother's smile never quite reached her eyes, and the secrets that seemed to hang in the air like a thick fog. Her younger brother, Alex, a 17-year-old with a rebellious streak, chose to ignore the family drama, preferring to spend his days skateboarding and playing guitar. But even he couldn't deny that something was off, something more than just the usual parental discord. It was a stifling July afternoon when Olivia found herself wandering through the mansion's west wing. Her mother had forbidden her from entering this part of the house, claiming it was full of antiques and memorabilia that didn't need to be disturbed. But curiosity had always been Olivia's weakness. As she opened a heavy oak door, a musty scent enveloped her, and she stepped into a room that felt frozen in time. Old photographs lined the walls, and mahogany bookshelves were filled with leather-bound volumes. Her gaze was drawn to a desk in the center of the room, where a faded, leather-bound journal lay partially open. Olivia hesitated before picking it up, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and dread. The journal belonged to her mother, Eleanor, and as Olivia read the entries, a chilling story unfolded. It detailed an affair Eleanor had been having for years with a man named Vincent Caldwell, a charismatic art dealer known for his charm and ruthlessness. The words spoke of secret rendezvous, passionate encounters, and a love that seemed more like an obsession. But the journal also hinted at something more sinister, whispers of threats, manipulation, and fear. Olivia's hand shook as she closed the book. Her mother's affair wasn't just a betrayal of their family, it was dangerous. That evening, Olivia confronted her mother in the sunroom, where Eleanor was arranging a vase of peonies. "Mom," Olivia said, her voice trembling, "I know about Vincent." The vase slipped from Eleanor's hands, shattering on the marble floor. Her face went pale, and for a moment she looked almost fragile, like a porcelain doll about to crack. "How did you—" Eleanor's voice was barely a whisper, but the fear in her eyes was unmistakable. Olivia's stomach twisted in knots. "I found your journal," she admitted. "What's really going on, Mom?" Eleanor sank into a chair, the strength draining from her body. She knew this moment would come eventually, but she had hoped to shield her children from the truth. "It started as a love affair," she confessed, her voice breaking. "But Vincent became controlling. He has something over your father, something so damaging that it could ruin us all." Olivia's mind raced. Her mother's affair had spiraled into a deadly game of blackmail and power, and now their entire family was at risk. Meanwhile, Alex had been eavesdropping from the hallway. He had always been curious about his parents' secrets, but what he heard chilled him to the bone. His mother's affair was dangerous, and someone was pulling the strings. Determined to learn more, Alex decided to follow Eleanor the next day. He had seen her leaving the house in a hurry, dressed in a black trench coat and oversized sunglasses, and he tailed her on his bike, staying far enough behind to avoid detection. Eleanor drove to an art gallery on the outskirts of town, a place Olivia and Alex had visited as children. But this was no casual visit. From his hiding spot, Alex watched as his mother met with a man who exuded an air of danger. Vincent Caldwell was handsome in a roguish way, with a calculating smile that never reached his eyes. The tension between him and Eleanor was palpable, and Alex strained to hear their conversation. "I'm tired of this game," Eleanor said, her voice wavering. "You've taken everything from me." Vincent's laugh was cold and devoid of humor. "You knew what you were getting into, Eleanor," he replied, "and you know the consequences if you or Edward try to defy me." Alex's blood ran cold. This man had power over his parents, and whatever leverage he held was enough to make his mother, the strong and composed Eleanor Monroe, tremble with fear. But before Alex could process the gravity of the situation, Vincent's gaze shifted in his direction. Panicking, Alex ducked behind a statue, his heart pounding as he realized how dangerous this game of secrets had become. Back at Crestwood Heights, Olivia was trying to piece together what she had learned. Her mother's affair wasn't just an act of infidelity, it was entangled with blackmail, manipulation, and threats that had put their entire family in jeopardy. She needed answers, and the only way to get them was to confront her father. Edward Monroe was in his study, a room that always smelled faintly of cigars and old leather. Olivia knocked, and when she entered, Edward looked up from his desk, surprised but composed. "What is it, Olivia?" he asked, his voice calm but wary. Olivia took a deep breath, summoning the courage she needed. "I know about Mom and Vincent," she said, watching as her father's face hardened. Edward's eyes darkened, and for the first time, Olivia saw a vulnerability in him, a crack in the armor he had always worn. "It's more complicated than you think," he replied, his voice heavy with regret. "Vincent isn't just an art dealer. He's a man with dangerous connections, and he's holding something over me that could destroy everything I've built." Olivia was stunned. Her father, the unshakable Edward Monroe, was being blackmailed. "What does he have on you?" she demanded. Edward rubbed his temples, looking older and more worn than she had ever seen him. "Years ago, I made a mistake," he admitted. "A client of mine, someone with powerful enemies, disappeared under suspicious circumstances. Vincent claims to have evidence linking me to the disappearance, and he's been using it to control me ever since." The weight of Edward's confession hung in the air, and Olivia felt a mix of anger and fear. Her family was trapped in a web of lies and danger, and there was no easy way out. But before she could respond, a loud crash echoed through the mansion. Alex burst into the study, out of breath and pale as a ghost. "Vincent knows I was following him," he blurted out. "We're in serious trouble." Panic set in as the reality of their situation became clear. Vincent Caldwell wasn't just a threat. He was a predator, circling his prey, ready to strike at any moment. The Monroes had to act fast if they wanted to survive. Edward made a call to his most trusted associate, a private investigator named Jake Stanton. Jake had worked with Edward in the past, uncovering truths that others had tried to bury. He arrived at Crestwood Heights within the hour, his demeanor cool and professional. "Tell me everything," he said, his voice steady as a rock. The family gathered in the drawing room, where they laid out the tangled mess of affairs, blackmail, and hidden truths. Jake listened carefully, his sharp eyes taking in every detail. "We need leverage," he finally said. "Something to counter Vincent's hold over you. There has to be a way to turn the tables." But finding leverage against a man as dangerous as Vincent Caldwell was easier said than done. The Monroes were running out of time, and the walls were closing in. As night fell, a sense of dread settled over the estate. Olivia couldn't sleep, her mind racing with fear and uncertainty. She wandered through the darkened halls, memories of her childhood blending with the present nightmare. Her family's legacy was on the verge of collapse, and she felt powerless to stop it. But then she remembered something. A conversation she had overheard between her parents years ago. Something about a safe hidden behind a portrait in Edward's study. Hope sparked in her chest, and she hurried to the study, her hands trembling as she removed the painting of a serene landscape. Behind it was a safe, and after several failed attempts, she guessed the combination. Her mother's birthday. The safe clicked open, revealing a stack of documents and a USB drive. Olivia's hands shook as she plugged the drive into her laptop. What she found made her blood run cold. It was evidence, emails, bank transfers, and a video confession that implicated Vincent in a series of illegal activities, including the disappearance of Edward's client. This was the leverage they needed. But before Olivia could share her discovery, the mansion's security system blared. Intruders had breached the estate and chaos erupted. Jake Stanton sprang into action, instructing the Monroes to hide. Olivia clutched the USB drive as she and Alex ducked into a hidden passageway, their hearts pounding. Edward and Eleanor braced themselves in the drawing room, determined to face whatever danger awaited them. Vincent Caldwell entered the mansion with a confidence that bordered on arrogance. His men spread out, searching for the Monroes, but Jake was ready. A scuffle broke out, gunshots echoing through the halls. Eleanor, who had always been a picture of grace, found herself holding a fireplace poker, ready to defend her family. Edward, despite his flaws and mistakes, stood by her side, his jaw set with determination. In the hidden passageway, Olivia and Alex could hear the chaos unfolding. "We have to do something," Alex whispered, his voice shaking. Olivia nodded, her grip on the USB drive tightening. "We have the evidence," she said. "If we can get it to Jake, we might have a chance." Summoning every ounce of courage, they slipped out of the passageway and made their way to the drawing room. Just as Vincent cornered Edward and Eleanor, Olivia burst in, holding the USB drive high. "It's over, Vincent," she declared, her voice steady. "We have proof of everything." Vincent's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, it seemed he might attack. But Jake had managed to subdue one of Vincent's men and now aimed a gun at the art dealer. "Stand down," Jake ordered. Vincent weighed his options, the fury in his eyes giving way to resignation. He knew he had lost. The police arrived moments later, arresting Vincent and his associates. The nightmare was over, but the scars it left behind would take time to heal. In the aftermath, the Monroes faced a new reality. Their family was forever changed, but they had emerged stronger, bound by the trials they had endured. Eleanor found solace in her children, and Edward, humbled by the ordeal, vowed to rebuild the trust he had shattered. Olivia and Alex, once sheltered and naive, had grown into resilient warriors, ready to face whatever the future held.